Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.
Double R Radio, Robert Rivas Radio, and at this time, I'd like to welcome Mike Gonzalez to my morning show, and people are probably going, Robert, Mike Gonzalez, why does it sound familiar? Well, it sounds familiar because he is the son of the late, great Jimmy Gonzalez.
Yes,
good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Robert. How's everything going out there?
I'm doing great, amigo. How about yourself?
Good. Just staying safe, you know what I mean? Protecting ourselves with everything going on, but other than that, I mean, it's gracias a Dios, everything's good.
Oh, is Mike, how things change in a lifetime, don't they?
Yes. I mean, it's unbelievable how life works. You know, we really don't have. I mean, yes, we have a plan, you know, of goals that we want to reach, but when it comes to that part of life, that's a little touchy. You know what I mean? Porque pues nunca sabes. You know what I mean? It's God's plan, and we gotta kind of just deal with what He throws at us, and you know. Sometimes it's not what we want, but you know, there's again, está en las manos de Dios, por decir.
Mike, before anything else, before we get this interview started, I definitely want to give my condolences to you and your family on the passing of your father, Jimmy Gonzalez. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I was impacted like if it was a family member, and he was in many, many ways, not only because I knew him, but more so because of his music. And like I said, before anything else, my condolences go out to you and your family.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We as a family appreciate that. And thank you to all of his fans that reached out. And you know, it's unbelievable on how many people he had reached with his music. Porque, man, Robert, we're five brothers, and our phones just wouldn't stop ringing. You know what I mean? Which is beautiful, because there was people I would call and just start praying on the phone for us. I mean, sending their condolences. They were sending pictures that they had with our father. I mean, it was a hard time that we were going through, but it was beautiful to see the people that he reached, you know.
Let me ask you this, Mike. We have a lot to talk about here, but first things first. How did you, being a little boy, how did you come how were you aware? How did you come about saying, wow, my dad's a musician? I mean, how did you feel about this, being a little boy and seeing your father doing everything he was doing?
You know, growing up, pues he was hardly ever home, you know, porque when he started back in 76, 77, I was 1 year old, you know what I mean? I was 1 year old, so todavía no entendía what was really going on, but as I started growing up, and he would have he would have a rehearsal with everybody at our house in our garage, you know what I mean? And cuando llegaba, and they were setting up all kinds of instruments, and I was like okay, like, you know, he's in a band, and you know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna lie that, you know, they would end rehearsal, and they were going to rehearse the following day. So me and my brothers would go into the garage and mess around with the drums and mess around with, you know, being kids. But little by little, I started noticing that, you know, we were able to go to the mall, por decir, and people were coming up to him asking for autographs and asking for pictures. And right there, I started to like, okay, this is something more than what I'm thinking, you know. And yeah, as time went on, now I'm about, you know, 10, 12 years old, and now he's taking us to sound check and taking us to the gigs in McAllen and San Benito, and you know what I mean? And the crowds that would show up, I was like, this is a whole other level here, you know what I mean? Like, I was in awe. I couldn't believe how many people were packed into the Villarreal in McAllen. You know what I mean? And I was on stage. My two younger brothers, well, they were running around and they were being, you know, but I was enthralled with the music, and I was just looking at the crowd like, what is going on right now? You know what I mean? But it was amazing.
Mike, did you ever ask your father, what's going on here? What's going on here, Dad? I mean, explain to me. Why are all these people here to see you and the band? Did you ever tell him?
You know, I never asked him that. My question automatically to him was, let me be a part of the band. You know what I mean? And that's no lie. That I was like, let me play. And he was like, I can't. Your Uncle Adolfo's on the drums. How do you want me to get rid of him? I'm like, no. And, you know, so I enjoyed being at soundcheck. I wanted to see soundcheck. I wanted to know what was going on. I wanted to hear that, you know, and my father was such a perfectionist that he would get off stage during soundcheck and he would go to the front, and at that time the light man was Joe T, and he'd be like, let me see what you're doing. Like, let me see your light scenes. And he right then and there, like, I don't like those colors. Change those colors. I mean, he had it down to where he wanted it to be perfect. You know what I mean? There was one time, Robert, I don't mean to interrupt you, but there was one time.
No. Go ahead.
During the show, he got off stage and walked to the front board, the front of the house, because people were complaining that it didn't sound right. And he walked out there to the front in the middle of the dance and was chewing somebody out to, like, you better fix this right now. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow, like that. You know what I mean? So it was beautiful to me. I cherish those memories, those moments, because it was amazing at the magnitude that they had. You know what I mean? The level that they were at. And
you know what, Mike? Let me tell you this. I got into this crazy business back in the late 80s, and Mas had already taken off, and they were doing their thing. They hadn't exploded yet, but they were getting ready to. And I was always amazed at the music, at the arrangements, at just pretty much the performance in itself. And really, it took me time to figure out, you know, I had to get more involved in the business to figure out, and I've said this, and I'll tell anybody this, that your father was the backbone of the band itself, Mas. I mean, he was not only he was the workhorse, man. He was the arranger, the producer, the songwriter. I mean, the getting of the bookings, the gigs, the dealing with promoters, some who don't want to pay, some who want to pay, all of that. Your father took on, and mind you, it's a tough scenario. It really, really is, and a lot of people fail to realize that. And then let's push that to the side. Then he was also a singer, which people fail to realize. And a lot of the CDs that have come out from the beginning, of course, Joe Lopez is Joe Lopez. We're not going to take nothing away from him.
Right.
But people always fail to realize that Jimmy was also a singer, correct?
Yes. No más que what it was, Robert, is that he would pretty much sing everything that he was producing and everything that he was arranging had what we call in the studio a dummy vocal. You know what I mean? And he just didn't want to take that on because to him, Joe was his brother. You know what I mean? That was his best friend. So he was like, you're going to do it. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
it's like you say, a lot of people fail to realize that, porque automatically you go see somebody live and the front person automatically to you, that's the one that's doing everything, and not necessarily, it's really not like that all the time.
Is it fair to say, Mike, is it fair to say that, and although we're going to extend the responsibilities your dad took on, but is it fair to say that your father was Jerry Maguire of the band, behind the scenes?
Yes.
Right?
And
right, because a lot of people do not see the Jerry Maguire, the guy who does the heavy lifting, the business, the yelling, the screaming, all of that. I mean, nobody saw any of that. Of course, like I said, I'm not taking nothing away from Joe Lopez. Everybody has a thing to do. But, of course, your father took on the heavy lifting, which was
he took on
behind the
everything.
scenes.
Yes. I mean, Robert, as kids, we would see him with his date book out and making phone calls after phone call after phone call. I mean, just like, I'm like, how are you still okay right now? You know what I mean? You haven't gotten off the phone in like 3 hours. You know what I mean? And his date book would be filled. And I'm like, and then you still got to go to the studio. This is while we're kids. You know what I mean? So he would go play. He'd go to the studio. I mean, we would see him maybe twice in 2 weeks, maybe. You know what I mean? Llegaba, we'd go to Matamoros to the luchas back then, or we'd go to the movies, and then that was that. You know what I mean? So it wasn't that father son that everybody portrays or nothing like that. Which there's nothing wrong with it, but as a músico, we understood he's always out on the road. Thanksgiving, he's out playing. So.
Mike, let me say this before we move forward here on this interview, is that I talked to Mike a couple of days ago, and I asked him, because he had never heard the interview I did with his father, and I asked him, if you get a chance, take a listen. I send him the link. It's gotten over 100,000. I take it back. Yeah, it's gotten over 100,000. It's at about 98,000 hits, which is just simply amazing. But the reason I wanted Mike to take a listen to it, because I wanted to kind of relate a little bit to what I wanted to talk about his dad. And, and although I thought about it, I really didn't, in a sense, because when I asked Mike before we got started with this interview, I asked him, Mike, did you take a listen to the interview? And he told me, Robert, I'm not going to lie to you, man. If I listened to maybe 20 minutes of it, it's just very, very difficult. And, Mike, and I didn't mean no disrespect by telling you to listen to the interview. The reason I wanted you to listen to it, because your father talks about a lot of a lot is that he was carrying on, a lot of behind the scenes of what people didn't see on the breakup of him and Joe Lopez, et cetera, et cetera. And like I said, and I know it's difficult. Hopefully in time you'll be able to listen to it. But that being said, Mike, that being said, did you ever talk to your father and say, you know what, Dad, man, I'd love to have more time with you. I understand you're doing what you're doing, but did you ever tell him, Dad, I miss you?
It was always like that, Robert, porque what child doesn't want their father to be around, But again, we understood that what he was doing was, in a sense, supporting us. You know what I mean? Because our mother was always with us. So it was him going to work. He'll be back. He's going to work. You know what I mean? So yes, we would tell him, like, hey, are you going to be here for Christmas this year? And at the beginning, Robert, no lie, I mean, he would book a lot. You know what I mean? Thanksgiving week, cállate, pretty much every day he was out playing. But little by little, he started either taking Christmas Eve off and playing Christmas Day, or playing Christmas Eve and taking Christmas Day off. And he would spend that holiday with us. You know what I mean? So little by little, it started getting there. Pero, I mean, did we miss him? Of course we missed him, you know, but we understood at the same time that they were starting to get there to where there was no time to come home, you know?
How much impact, Mike, how much impact did it put on the family? Like I said, a father being away, you know, and I've always said this, an entertainer in general, I don't care, you know, what genre, whatever, the holidays, all the weekends, all that was meant for entertainers. You know, people go out there and they like to enjoy their weekends. Entertainers, that's their profession, to entertain people, and even more so, the weekends, the holidays, that's what they're all about. That's what they're there for. How much strain, how much impact did it put on your family?
You know, it bothered us, you know what I mean? Porque, pues, again, who doesn't want to spend Thanksgiving with their father or with their mother, vice versa, you know what I mean? Like
Sure, of course.
And, you know, as we got to that age, we were able to go to the show that he was having on Thanksgiving in McAllen. You know what I mean? We were able to eat early and then go, and we didn't get to sit down and eat together, but we spent the night together, you know? He was working, of course, pero, you know, it was more of a having him in our presence than the actual holiday. It was one of those things that, like, he's home, you know what I mean? And that's all that matters right now. We didn't care if it was Thanksgiving, if it was Easter, it was the fact that he was home.
How much did y'all feel or sense with the business of your father, the pressures, not only with promoters, band members, Joe Lopez, etc.? Did y'all see a lot of this?
No, not really, because he had it down to where he was with his kids. He was our father. He wasn't Jimmy Gonzalez and Grupo Más. He was our father. He was Honey. That's what we called him, Honey. You know what I mean? So he never showed his frustrations he had with the business in front of us. He never showed, you know, so-and-so wants to get out, or so-and-so's out of control, or so-and-so didn't show up, or nothing like that. You know, when he was with us, it was us. That was our father with us. So we really didn't get to see the stress, the anger, you know what I mean? None of that. None of the business part as kids. Yeah, once we got older, and then we started working with them, and then we saw, like, orale, like, now we get it, you know?
Whenever y'all would go out, dinners, if, you know, I'm sure y'all went out for some dinners or whatever, you would be out in public or whatever.
Right.
Did it ever amaze you? Because I don't have to ask you if people came up to Jimmy, but
yes,
did it ever amaze you when people would go up to him all the time? An autograph.
Yes.
Hey, let me take a picture.
Yes. Yes, it would, porque, you know, Robert, there was always this one guy that was with him, you know? And I say one guy because the names always changed, or, you know what I mean? So, for example, I'll give you a name, Jerry Cadena. You know, he was his security guy. You know, so when we went out to the mall, Jerry was with us. He wasn't hanging out with us, but he was there, you know what I mean? So when the crowds would start to get too big, asking for autographs and pictures and whatnot, he would step in and kind of like, hey, like, he's spending time with his kids, like, give him a little bit, and then, you know, and then afterwards, like, y'all can come up, but he's with his kids right now. And that's how it went down. And when I started seeing that, I was like, wow, this is a whole other level now. You know what I mean?
Did y'all feel any of the pressures, or let me rephrase this, did he talk to y'all or explain to y'all, or did he show any emotion on the breakup of him and Joe Lopez?
You know, when the I want to say maybe 97, maybe 98, by then it was starting to get ugly, and it was, you know, he never really explained why or what exactly was going on, but he would tell us, hey, Joe booked a gig and didn't tell me about it. So he would stay without a gig while the band was out playing with another guitarist.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You know,
I didn't know that.
y sí se agüitaba porque, hey, that's my brother, you know what I mean? And he's doing this, like what's happening here? You know, exactly when they broke up, I really don't know. You know what I mean? I'm not going to give any false information, but I do know that once the breakup did happen, he did go through some depression, and pues sí le molestaba because after, you know, 20-something years of sharing the stage with, como te digo, con tu hermano.
I have talked about this. I talked about this, you know, with your father, and when your father was with Freddie Records, I was a promoter for EMI Latin, and mind you, I had some heavy hitters, Intocable, Joe Lopez, Cumbia Kings, Control, Bobby Polido, et cetera, et cetera. So I was working with some heavy hitters at EMI Latin, but I got to tell you, my biggest counterpart on working radio airplay was Jimmy Gonzalez. Man, he was a tough act. He really, really was. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because, I mean, it made me admire him that much more, porque on the breakup of your father and Joe Lopez, you know, your father survived.
Yes. Yes. You know, he again, he went through depression. He went and he took a year off, you know, and he just couldn't get it. He couldn't get through the fact that I can't be the front man. I'm not the front man. You know what I mean? And a lot of companies told him that. A lot of clubs would tell us that. You're not going to do anything because you don't have Joe with you. You know, and I mean that's a shot. You know what I mean? Porque, man, y'all don't even know that I was the one producing everything. You know, but because he was a front man, now you're telling me I can't. You know, so I personally remember telling him, like, dude, because that's what I would call him, as dude, and I was like, dude,
dude,
yeah, you know, and I was like, everything that you did for him, you're gonna do for yourself now. This is gonna work. And he would look at me like, you think so? And like, yes. Why wouldn't it work? It's worked for the past 20 years. Now it's just you. You know, and, you know, Robert, and ahí se agarró. And he started writing, and he started, you know, arranging songs again. And believe it or not, Freddie Martinez was the only one that was like, orale, I'm gonna give you a contract. Show me what you can do. And from there, it took off. You know what I mean?
I tell you what, Mike, let's take a break in the action. You are listening to Double R Radio, Robert Rivas Radio, and I am here with Mike Gonzalez, son of music icon Jimmy Gonzalez.
Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.
How you doing, amigo?
I'm good.
There we go. The Valley, ¿verdad? El Valle de la Casa.
Brownsville, yes.
There we go. Mike, now let's move forward here a little bit.
Okay.
Your dad is with Freddie Records. Joe Lopez is with EMI Latin. What were your father's thoughts about this?
You know, he couldn't believe that they wouldn't give him a shot, you know. Sí se agüitó, but como te digo, when he spoke to Freddie Jr. and Freddie put his faith in him and us, you know what I mean? And that gave him that fight. So I'm going to show you all of y'all that didn't believe in me, I'm going to show you. And dicho y hecho, Robert, he se agarró and he would, going back to your question that you asked, did you ever see the stress and the anger with the band and, you know, et cetera? Then I saw it. Porque right there, he took his band and he was business. He meant business. You know, I don't want this, I don't want that. I need it to sound like this. And he kept us on our toes. You know, and
Mike, no, but on the separation between your father and Joe Lopez, band members took sides, correct?
Yes.
Brando went with Joe, and
right.
I don't know who went with your father, but band members took sides. They were taking sides.
Yes.
You know, I guess I guess they were thinking, where is the grass going to be greener?
Exactly. Yes.
And I guess that's where you find out where loyalty is, right?
Yes, porque te digo que Adolfo went with my father. Mario Gonzalez, a bass player, went with my father. Tommy, pues es hermano, so he was, you know, pero lo que era Brando, he did go with Joe, and that was fine, you know what I mean? Porque even till the last day that my father was here with us, he would talk to Brando like a brother, you know what I mean? Porque after a lot of years that you spend on the road together, that you become a family, you know?
Of course.
And so there was hard feelings at the beginning when it happened, but through time, it really didn't matter who went with who, you know what I mean? Porque he forgave everybody. He was good because he had his own band. And he knew that he could put his band against any band out there and we were going to show up. You know what I mean?
How did you feel about it, Mike? How did you feel about it?
Well, at that time, pues yo me agüité because I was like, hey, man, you all knew that he did all of this for y'all. And you all just turned your back on him. You know what I mean? So there was a little, I don't want to say hatred because that's just a strong word, but sí andábamos agüitados, you know, but like I said, with time, we learned to forgive and move forward because at the end of the day, we were able to perform and we were able to like, orale, like who are we going up against and this is what we got, you know? So there was, at the beginning, there was some hard feelings there, but, yeah, once we started getting the ball rolling, it was like, you're bad, you know what I mean?
Pero fíjate, Mike, that, you know, it's unreal on the breakup, and I've always said there's no winners. There's no winners in this, and even more so, the only losers, you know, let's discount Joe and your father, but are your fans. You know, because, I mean, la música del supergrupo más, I mean, and I'm not taking away nothing from your father. I'm not taking nothing away from Joe. I mean, it was a group. It was a family. It was special, you know, and that music is going to live forever. And nobody wants to see Joe and Jimmy part ways. Nobody wanted that. Right. But it's unfortunate that people fail to see behind the scenes.
Yes. You know, and it's like you say, nobody wanted to see, you know, their favorite band break up. Like, who wants to see that? it's not supposed to happen like that, And then you're down to, okay, either you're going to go see them or you're going to go see this. The singer's over here with a new band, or the band's over here with a new singer, And you kind of cut your crowd in half and your fans porque pues uno se agüitan, you know what I mean? But I mean, it was bad and it was sad that it happened. Pero, like you say, what happens behind closed doors, a lot of people don't know, And I will tell you that our father, wasn't the one that broke up that band.
Mike, now, your father doing his own thing, and let me ask you this. Your father always seemed to be a very big person. Okay, he seemed to get, he was a big person, and did he ever try to take care of himself, say, you know what, I better start putting myself on a diet or watching what I eat or trying to do this or that? Was there any of that involved to try to take care of his health?
Robert, it wasn't a thing that he ate too much. That wasn't it at all.
Was it hereditary or something like that?
That? No, it was his thyroid, So it wasn't that he sat there and ate, all this stuff, because believe it or not, we were eating more than he would. So would he take care of himself? Yes, he would. But he would.
Did y'all ever try to do treatments, or maybe go see a doctor, and maybe try to do something, or was it kind of like, well, I mean, how did y'all? Was there anything that was talked about within the family to try to keep him from getting in a medical condition?
Robert, he was terrified of doctors. No quería ir y no iba a ir. He would go because ya no aguantaba. You know what I mean? And by the time he went was, okay, well, now you got to take these pills and, watch what you eat, make sure you eat 3 meals a day and whatnot. And he did it. We could be out on the road and he knew that, okay, I got to take my medication. I need to eat, take my medication. I will rest, get ready for the show, do the show, get back, eat. You know what I mean? Like, make sure that he was good.
To me, Mike, the most healthiest a person, and I don't care who you are, the most healthiest a person with a work schedule like your father had, being on the road with a band, it will take its toll on you, man.
Yeah, no la haces. Not just anybody, porque it's a lot, I remember, Robert, taking guys on the road with me, friends of mine, like, you want to work? Let's go work. Aguantaban maybe a weekend and I'm homesick. I want to go home already. Like that, and that's no joke. And it's like, what are
That's right. Sure.
You know what I mean? And
sure.
Everybody that was on the road with us, we were down 100%. We're not going to make it home. Orale, let's go. Let's keep going. And those were the soldiers we were looking for.
They think it's easy. They just see the band being up on stage and they see the glamour and the glitz and all that, the lights and the people yelling and screaming, and they think, oh man, I can do that. I want to do that. Yep. Dude, they don't know. They don't even get the first base, man.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They think that it's, you just go up there and play and then you party and, and I'm like, okay, well, come on. But they don't know that we're showing up at 9, 10 in the morning to set up and sound check, go to the hotel, get ready, you eat something, go to the gig, you got to tear down. By the time you leave, it's, 3, 4 in the morning. And guess what? The next day, you're up at 9 in the morning and we're got to unload and we're going to set up and we're going to sound check and like, where's the fun? You know what I mean? And
I know it was tough for your dad. we talked about this a little bit about when Joe was incarcerated, and he said that they didn't communicate. But once Joe got out of jail, and you know what? I take it back. Before he went to jail, your father had talked to me, and when we did the interview, and told me that there was communication of him and Joe possibly getting together and doing a reunion tour. Did he ever talk to you about this?
Yes. So we did a couple of shows before he got sent in.
Right.
And we did maybe, I don't know, 5, 6 shows, and then we even recorded a live album with him. And he went in, but when he got out, he did mention that, you know, he's thinking about doing a tour with him, but he was like, but I'm going to do it for the fans. That's why I'm going to do it. You know, so his thing was, I'll do it, but it's my band. You know what I mean? So he wasn't going to get on stage with any other band but his. And those were the only stipulations, yes.
I got you. Well, let me ask you this, Mike. I was going to save this for a little bit later, but I think we can talk about this right now.
Okay.
The name Mas, who owns it?
Yes.
Who owns it?
Okay, so I'm gonna just go a little bit into this, porque you know, through his solo career, that name belonged to my father. That's
was
why
it registered? Was it registered
yes.
to your father? Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
That's why for 20 years we were Jimmy Gonzalez y Grupo Mas. You know, so and what's happening here is that Joe was able to use Mas, but he had to put a name in front of it. That's why he was going under Joe Lopez y la nueva imagen Mas.
Right. Of course. Right.
You know, so it was okay. You know, everything was good. Yeah, close to the end when it was up, they meaning Joe's camp, snuck in and got this name. You know? So when that happens, we're at, do we fight for this name? What do y'all want to do? As in the brothers, you know, like we're like,
your family, right?
My family, yes.
Of course.
Yes. And some of them are at, you know, that name is tainted in a way. You know, if he wants to use it, that's fine. You know, but I don't think, like, how can I say this? Some of my brothers are like, you don't need it, Mike. You know what I mean? Like, you need to use what your father showed you and do you. You know? So it was kind of at an understanding of, let's just not fight for it. You know?
Mike, I ask you this question only for one reason. And mind you, I'm not trying to start anything on any side, but I ask you this only for one reason, which is, when Joe Lopez was incarcerated, your father was touring, recording under Jimmy Gonzalez y el Grupo Mas, correct?
Correct.
Okay. When Joe got out, your father passed away. All of a sudden, Joe grabbed the name and started going, El Grupo Mas. That's fine. You know, according to him, great.
Right.
When I did an interview with Joe Lopez, he told me the only reason that the name Mas, he didn't fight for it was because he was incarcerated and he couldn't do nothing about it at the time. So let me ask you this. If your father were to be alive today, would he still be carrying the Mas name with him?
Yes. Yes, because that was a name that he put together. That was the band that he put together.
I think what I'm trying to get at here, Mike, is that, okay, your father passes away, Now, the name, the family, you, your brothers, y'all don't stay with the name. It isn't, y'all don't, I guess, inherit the name Mas. How was it so simple for the Joe Lopez camp to take over the name if it was your father's?
Because what happened was that after so many years, you have to re-register. After so many years, you re-register. You know what I mean?
I got you.
So what happened was that when that name became available, my father was going through his personal issues. You know what I mean? So as soon as that happened...
And didn't renew it.
Didn't renew it, and the other camp came in. You know,
I got you. I understand.
So
okay,
they can try to, well, you can't use it because I'm going to sue you and because I'm going to do this and my father at that time was like, you're not going to do anything about it. You know what I mean? And that's what it was. You know, he did the rest of his career / his life under Jimmy Gonzalez and Grupo Mas.
To me, Mike, and I say this when I play a Mas song on the morning show. I say, there we go, something by the Super Grupo Mas when they were in Super Grupo Mas. And like I said, to me, it's kind of like Jimmy Gonzalez, Joe Lopez is Joe Lopez, but at the end of the day, man, la gente, los fanáticos.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Joe and Jimmy, you know, and to me, I mean, Jimmy has passed on, God rest his soul. You know, Joe Lopez también. You know, those are the two faces of Mas, Joe and Jimmy.
Yes.
You know, those are the two faces. And I really think that if anybody is going to give it any kind of respect and carry it forward, and the foundation of that name would be Joe Lopez. You know, like I said, that's just my opinion on it. But like I said, when anybody says Mas, El Super Grupo Mas, you think Joe Lopez, Jimmy Gonzalez, Joe Lopez. That's just a done deal, Mike. Fair to say.
Yes, I totally understand, and I agree with you. You know, but our only thing is, look, man, if you all were as tight as you all said you were, why do you make such a big thing out of it? You know what I mean?
Sure. And that you would have to ask the Joe Lopez camp.
Yes. You know, like why not give respect or why not give credit where credit is due?
I tell you what, Mike. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Again, yo no le quito nada a Joe Lopez. I don't talk bad about him in my interviews. Nothing. As a matter of fact, I wish him the best. Mm. But don't come after Jimmy's family as like you're all high and mighty. Like you do you. You worry about you. Don't worry about Jimmy's family. Don't, you know. But apparently they see it differently, which is fine. You know what I mean? We don't sweat it. We don't lose sleep over it. There's nothing like that.
I tell you what, Mike, let's take a break in the action. You are listening to Double R Radio, Robert Rivas Radio, and I'm here with Mike Gonzalez, son of the Tejano icon, music icon, Jimmy Gonzalez.
Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.
8-time Grammy winner, Jimmy Gonzalez.
That's right, and I love to be corrected. Thank you, and thank you for correcting me on that. How can we forget that? And should have been more, Mike. Should have been more than that.
Oh yeah, I agree. But we got ours, so it was good. But yes, how you doing, Rob? We're back.
I'm doing great, brother, and I appreciate you for correcting me, and I got no problem with that whatsoever. And not even correcting me, reminding me. But the thing is here, Mike, is that I get so involved with the interview and talking about you and whatever. I mean, this is just simply unreal. It's like what I was telling Mike is that, I mean, a lot of people out there, they don't know the lowdown. You know, they don't get a feel for all this and what's going on. They just see a singer up on stage. They see a musician up on stage. They hear the CD, but they know nothing about the behind the scenes. No que no, Mike.
Right. There's quite a bit, you know what I mean? But it's some of it only the músicos would understand. Some of it, I mean, I'm sure all the fans would like to know, but, you know, kind of hard to do that, but.
Now, Mike, 3-time Grammy Award winner, ¿verdad?
8-time.
Okay, I was playing with you, man. Come on, let's get it.
I'm about to hang up right now.
No, don't do that, dude. Don't do that, man. I'm playing with you, man.
No.
8-time Grammy Award winner. Now, let me ask you this. How did Jimmy feel about his first Grammy?
It was unbelievable to him. I mean, just unbelievable. He couldn't believe it, you know. He appreciated every award that we would win. You know, whether it was the Tejano Award, whether it was the Valley Choice Awards, or Los de Corpos, or the Grammys, or, you know what I mean? Like, he appreciated everything that he accomplished, everything that he won. I mean, he was just like, you know what? This is the payoff. This is where it shows after the hard work. This is it, you know?
Mike, 8 Grammys. I take it you have all the Grammys at home.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I got to ask you because, you know, maybe one brother, you know, one son got one, another one got another one, and they part ways. One has another one, but they're all together.
Yeah. No, they're all together, you know. So what happens, Robert, is that the band gets them. You know what I mean? So my father has his, I have mine, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, I did give the first one that we won. I gave that to my oldest brother, Henry. Y eso era porque he stood right by me when I was down on the dirt. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't, muy a huevo tenía pa comer, muy a huevo, you know what I mean? And he was the one that was always there, like, here, Mike, and here, and here. He never gave up. So when we won that, because, yeah, I was more stable now. And I gave it to him, like, here, this is yours, you know? And then the last one that we won, I gave that one to my youngest brother, Robert. We call him Euchre, Uke Dog. And eso era porque it's like you say, Robert, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that people don't see. And that guy, my youngest brother, would bust his ass on the road, taking care of my father. He was his guitar tech, you know what I mean? He was our monitor engineer. So it was on him. He had all the pressure on him when we were on stage. And that one, I was like, here, you deserve this, porque, you know, a lot of people don't see what you go through, you know? And the rest of the crew was, you know?
But you know what, Mike? I mean, you know, it shows a lot about your character, even more so for you to give up your Grammy and give them to the people that you feel deserve them as well. It says a lot about you, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's like both ours. We're just going to keep it at their house. You know what I mean?
but regardless, I would. That's mine and mine, man. This ain't right here, ain't going nowhere. But it says a lot about you, Mike. It really does.
Yeah.
That says a lot about you, dude. That, you know, you definitely learn to appreciate the people around you.
Yes, you know, and that was something that my father taught me when we started. He always told me, you know, Mike, you show up to clubs, you show up to venues, to concerts, whatever, and you walk in there like you're 10 feet tall. You want everybody's eyes on you, you know? And that way they know they just walked in the building. And they're going to come up and see the show. Once the show's over, Mike, now you come down to their level and you go out there and hang out with them. You stay humble. you're no better than anybody else. All you're doing is playing music. You know, and that was something that I always take with me, you know. Even now when we perform, it's one of those things that I want to meet all of his fans. I want to talk to them. I want to interact with them, and you know, so it's something that I learned in la escuela de Jimmy G, you know.
Mike, I want to move forward here, and
yes.
Before I move forward here, I'm going to share with you a story, a memory that I have of your father. And it's not really a good memory. And let me tell you where I'm going with this. I was very, very blessed with my internet radio station that Fiesta de la Flor event in Corpus Christi. I was part of the promotions part of it to promote the event. And every year they took care of me. I'd go down to Corpus, and I was there, and I'd see the shows and whatever. And, Mike, you probably got a better memory than I do. Can you remember the last time your father had performed there? He performed one time at Fiesta de la Flor, maybe about 3 years ago, give or take?
Yes, around there, yes.
Okay, there we go. Well, let me tell you, I was backstage. I was there. I was talking to Abraham Quintanilla. We were just kind of doing the deal there, you know. And I remember your father had just finished. He had just finished performing, and the stage out there was pretty high. And they had like these stairs where, man, if you weren't careful, I don't care who you are, or I mean, what kind of, if you're fit or not fit, if you're not careful, you're going down, you know. And like I said, the stage was high, and I noticed right away where your father really, really struggled to walk down those stairs, but even worse, which was the fact to once he got on the ground, they walked him to it was an SUV, Escalade, whatever it was, and I know it took 2 or 3 people to help your father get into the vehicle, and I saw him really, really struggling, and I felt bad for him, and I said, you know, the way I saw it, Mike, was this man, he doesn't belong up on stage if he's going to be, you know, struggling like this and feeling, and he looked bad. He looked really, really bad. And, I mean, lo and behold, nobody would want to see him fall from the stairs, etc. Estaba batallando mucho. Obviously, he was having physical issues at that time, correct?
Yes. You know, it was one of those things, Robert, that we all had to talk with him, you know, and I remember asking him actually, I was like, dude, let's work one weekend, let's take one off. Work one weekend, we'll take one off. You know what I mean? And he was like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not what I do. So I'm going to go and work every weekend. And I was like, okay, I got you. I'm right here. So, you know, so we did have the talk, but he was what people call a workhorse, you know. No le iba a aflojar, y no le flojó. He was at go. We're going, you know. So, yeah, close to the end, Robert, he did sit the band down, and he was like, look, I'm going to get shows, and then I'm going to run them through Mike. If Mike feels that it's not smart of us to do, or, you know what I mean, then we're not going to do it. You know, so there was one night that we played in San Antonio. We had to go to Midland, and then we had an early show in San Antonio. And I was like, you know what, dude, it's wise for us not to go to Midland. You know, because by the time you get back over here, but it's gonna take a toll on you. So let's just not go to Midland. We'll reschedule Midland and we'll go out there. You know, and that's the way it was going down at the end. You know,
Mike, your father passed away your father passed away, correct me if I'm wrong, June the 6th, 2018.
Correct.
Is this correct?
Yes.
Did he show any signs of something wrong? And, that day, the day before, did y'all get a feel that something's wrong with Dad? Anything whatsoever?
Robert, I remember that 3 weeks prior to this happening, we were in Rosenberg. We were at the hotel, and I remember he called me to his room. But we had the day off, so we were just hanging out, so I remember going to his room. He sits me down because he's laying down, right? And he starts talking to me about, mijo, back then I had the power to do whatever I want. Whatever I wanted done, I could get it done. I had the money to do stuff, And I was like, okay. And he's like, but now I don't have it like that. The industry isn't as big as it was back then. So I don't have that power anymore to do those things. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine, So all in all, Rob, he ends up telling me, he's like, so what I want to do, mijo, is I want you to take the reins. I want you to be in charge. He's like, I'm your employee now. I just want to show up and play, get off and leave. I don't want to worry about getting paid. I don't want to worry about nothing. I want you to take care of it with your brothers, of course, So I was like, okay, like, let's do it. And then all he told me was like, just don't get me off the road. Let God get me off the road. Let him retire me. You all don't do it. Promise me. And I was like, I got you. I promise you. So that was that weekend, right? We go and do the rest of the weekend, whatever. And we get back on the road. And now we're 2 weeks prior. That second week we were in Bryan. We were performing there. So he ends up telling me that Freddie Records had released them, right? So I was like, okay. He andaba aguitado de eso. So I was like, okay. And I was like, but no te agüites, dude. Like, we can do this. So when that happens, he starts telling me about songs that he wants to record, and we need to get in the studio. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. He was like, are you sure we can do this, Mike? And I was like, yes, let's do it. So it was a thing, Robert, that at the end of every show, I was always the last one to leave porque it was my truck that was hauling the trailer. So I was the last one to get to the hotel, and then I would go to my dad's room and have a drink with him. Because I wouldn't drink all night while we were performing. I would start drinking at 2 a.m. when I was done. But I remember that day I sat there with him, and he had a whiskey on the rocks with me, and I was like, okay, right? So that was that. I quedó. The last weekend, we performed in Bryan again for a private. I remember Sunday morning when we were leaving, he got into his Suburban, and he called me over, and I was like, what's up, dude? And he was like, mijo, promise me that you'll never leave me. And I'm kind of like, I promise you. And he was like, no, like, this is him holding my hand. And he's like, promise me that you'll never leave my side. You'll always stand by me. And I was like, I promise you, dude. And that's how that ended, He was like, let me know when you get home, mijo. I love you. I was like, I love you too, dude. And that was Sunday, and that following Wednesday, he was gone.
What happened, Mike, the day he was taken to the hospital the night before or something like that, correct? Or how did it get to that point? Was he feeling ill? What exactly happened?
So I've got two brothers that live in San Antonio. My two younger brothers live in San Antonio, and all I know is that my phone rang at about 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. And it was my youngest brother, Euchre, and he was like, hey, they brought Dad to the hospital. I'm here with him right now. I'll let you know what's going on. And I was like, okay. So about 45 minutes passed, and he calls me again, and he's like, Mike, I think you should get up and start coming this way. So I was like, okay. I remember, Robert, getting out of bed. I remember jumping in the shower. And while I'm in the shower, I hear my phone ring. And I just broke down. I started crying in the shower because I knew that was that phone call. And I'll never forget that. I remember calling him back when I got out, and those were his words, like, he's gone.
Mike, what did your father, what did he pass away from? What did they say he died from?
So we have it understood that his sugar got too low and went into a diabetic coma is what they call it. And he was always, like, he would talk to us about I'm afraid of dying. I don't want to suffer. I don't want to go through that. And, when that happens to you, pues, te quedas dormido. You know what I mean? Like, you don't wake up. So did he suffer? Like, no, And by the time they got him to the hospital, they were trying to bring him back, but they just couldn't. He was gone. You know what I mean?
Who noticed something was wrong with him?
So he stayed in San Antonio to visit his grandkids, and he was with his wife, and she's the one that knows, and she's the one that called the paramedics. And so by the time he got to the hospital, my brother was there, and that's when my brother pretty much jumped in and started explaining to us what was happening. So we got on the road and we drove 4 hours to go to the hospital. We saw him in the room, and I don't know, it's something that I don't wish anybody to go through, you know what I mean, to lose their father or their mother or anybody for that matter. But how we started this interview, and it's life, you know what I mean? It's the hardest part of life that we have to go through. And it never, I mean, to me personally, it doesn't get any better, you know what I mean? Because to this day I hear his music and I can picture him in the studio singing it. I can hear his voice and I can tell the love and the passion he had for his music. I think that your father sang from his heart, and you can tell on not only the arrangements but the lyrics. Just he sang from his heart. He really did. And and I'll tell you again, it never fails, dude. Every time I play one of your dad's music on my morning show, every time
when the song's over, I would say, man, I don't know why I do this to myself, because every time I play a Jimmy G song, I get sad. And I do,
Yeah.
and I do. I didn't know your father well enough to say we were buddies, friends, we hung out, but I knew him, he knew me, and I had the highest respect in the world for him because I knew the talent that he had inside of him. And those 120 Grammys, like I was telling you, dude.
There you go. No,
those 120 Grammys. No me conoces, Mike. I like to joke around, but I'm sorry, man. You know, it's just, to me, it's more of, you know, I have to, you know, I love your dad's music. I mean, and I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. A lot of that music, when him and Joe broke up, a lot of that music that I would hear him singing, I said, that's music that was written for Joe Lopez. That would have been Joe Lopez singing. That would have been Joe Lopez singing all that music. But you know what? The beauty of your father to sing it himself and still make it a hit, dude. That's just simply awesome.
Yes, I mean it was me stepping out of the family and seeing that man work in the studio was unbelievable, Robert. Unbelievable. I mean, again, a lot of fans won't understand, a lot of the ones that aren't, you know, in the music and whatnot, but it was just like, I was amazed every time. Every time I would just sit there and I would watch him and him just singing ideas and melodies out, and we're going to do this, and it would just all make so much sense when it was put together and the way it would just flow. And I was just like, oh my God, right now, I can't, you know, and I talk like that porque me as a fan of Jimmy Gonzalez, I was just blown away. You know what I mean? But, you know, I'm his son, so I was able to be in there and whatnot, but they're beautiful memories that I have. Yes, he's gone. Like a friend of mine asked me, like, do you wish that you would have done something else? Because by now you would have already had a career. You would have already, you know, been set. But, you know, Robert, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I did 20 years playing the drums behind my father, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Well, he left us with a lot of beautiful music, a lot of beautiful memories. I can still remember your father. I don't know if you know this or not. I used to be the DJ at T-Town from back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
I have a lot of memories from there as well, you know. And let me ask you this, Mike. Let me ask you this. Do you think that it's possible, I don't even know where your relationship is, but is it possible to have a friendly relationship with Joe Lopez, knowing that Joe Lopez and Jimmy, your father, I mean, they're just like one and one together, man. I mean, do you all communicate? Did he communicate with you when your father passed away?
No, he didn't. No, he hasn't. You know, but to answer your question, is it possible to have this and that? I think that question belongs to him. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, Rob, we don't wish anything bad on him. We're not negative about that. You know, I have yet to. I heard him say in one interview that, you know, Mike, you should play your own music. Stop playing my music. You know, and I personally called that radio. I was like, put me on the air. And I did say, like, Joe, you need to understand that for those 20 years that y'all were together, he produced all this music. I have every right to play this music that our father produced. You know, I'm only paying a tribute, honoring our father and his career. That's what I do. But you're worried about the wrong things, you know. You're my godfather, for Christ's sake, and you're arguing with him? You're arguing with your godson, like, what is that? But again...
It is unfortunate, Mike. It is unfortunate how this business, you know, there was a friend of mine that came out with a statement, and it hits the nail on the head. It really, really does. And his statement was, how does something so ugly can come out of something so beautiful in the world of music, which is the business?
Yes. Yes. You know, and it's sad, Robert, that in this industry, you don't get people to collaborate as much as we should. You know, if you stop and pay attention, it's always only this little group, and it's always this other little group. Let's collaborate only with each other. And that's the sad part, porque mira, you look at the country scene, por decir, and everybody collaborates with everybody. They even collaborate with rappers, with, you know what I mean? But the Tejanos, for some reason, no quieren. I don't know. I don't know how to fix that, you know?
I think the fixer-upper for that dude is just to try to communicate better. And I'm talking in general. Communication will do it, but nobody wants to communicate. Everybody puts up their walls, and everybody's got their own thing going on. Entra la envidia, jealousy, or, you know, all that kicks in. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to, can we all just get along?
Exactly. You know, I think the industry would be so much better if we all just got along, like you just said.
Mike, any last words that you would want to say and to let people know about your father that maybe they don't know?
Again, my father, our father, really, really, truly appreciated his fans. He made it a point to say hi to everybody, to take pictures with everybody, to sign autographs whoever wanted them. He was so grateful for the support that his fans showed him, you know, to where if he could have free shows every night, he would have. But, you know, it comes down to a business, and, you know, but he would always tell us that he loved his fans. He loved his band, the close friends we had on the road. I mean, it was just one big happy family, you know. And at the end, it was just his time. It was his time to go be with God, you know. And I try to see it as possible. I mean, as positive as I can. And, you know, and it's like we all do. We question, well, why? Why did you have to take him, and why? But, you know, at the end of the day, it's like you said, Robert. He left beautiful music. He left beautiful memories with everybody. You know, if you knew him, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And from myself and my brothers, Henry, Junebug, Choch, Yugdog, we want to thank all of his fans from the bottom of our hearts for reaching out to us during that difficult time, and to this day for still reaching out. You know, we love you all, and God bless you all. Thank you all again.
Mike Gonzalez, thank you for being part of Robert Rivas Radio, Double R Radio.
Thank you, Robert, and you already know anything that you need from myself, from the family. You've got my number, and we'd be more than glad and happy to help you out.
Thank you, amigo.
Yes, sir.
Robert Rivas Radio, Tejano, and much more.